Preparation. Before starting with Chapter 1, you need to be prepared. I'm going to touch on some things that I believe will have you properly prepared and ready to outline from the very beginning. The first is software. There are several different software options out there for writing a novel. The most widely used, of course, is Microsoft Word or Mac Standard Text Doc. Then you have things like Dramatica Pro, Scrivener, and a host of others. I own copies of Dramatica Pro and Scrivener, and probably 4 others, but in the end I stick with Microsoft Word. I don't need all the other stuff to make an outline and keep it in order, but everyone is different. The point is, find a software that you're comfortable with and stick with it. So, alright, we've covered a lot of high-level stuff so far. We know why we're here. We know what a whodunit mystery novel is, and touched on a high level what a novel outline is and the basic knowledge of what a novel requires. Now it's time to get creative. So get ready. This is where the work begins for this course. From this moment on, it's a pen to paper, hands to keyboard, knock out, drag out, fight against creation. You're going to get tired, you're going to get frustrated, and you're likely going to get hung up on a scene and have no clue on how to proceed. But let me be the first to tell you to keep pushing. Take breaks as necessary, and don't listen to that thing in your head that tells you to stop, because once you have a breakthrough, it's really the greatest feeling ever. Moving on. So your idea for a whodunit novel. What are you going to create? If you don't have an idea yet, start brainstorming, because this course is about to take off. If you need help, start off with a vague idea, something that you find interesting, and write it down or type it out. I prefer paper first and transfer the notes over to the computer, but I'm kind of old school. Either way, turn that idea into something more real. As I mentioned, start by taking time to get the idea on paper. It doesn't have to make any sense whatsoever. It's just your brain letting everything flood out at once. You might have trouble keeping up, but hey, you can always buy Dragon 12 software and a good microphone, and you're all set. But anyway, just start fleshing out your idea. Try and come up with a very basic high-level overview of your story, starting with the beginning, touch on the middle, and then hit on the end. That's all you need at this point. Write as much or as little as you want. If the ideas are flowing, don't stop. Just keep writing until there's nothing left. You might have an idea for a sequel in there that won't have anything to do with this current work in progress, but it's good nonetheless, so keep that stuff. So now that you have the idea, let's build some people in it. When I first started writing, I read on how I should create some characters with real personality. I struggled with it. I struggled to become attached to the characters before writing. Maybe it's because I didn't spend enough time working on them. But whatever the reason, it didn't take too well, and I struggled. What I did right, though, was have something written about each character or main character. It helped me start with a name. I thought about the premise of the book and the action scenes and how cool this protagonist would be in the movie, and then I used that to fuel to find a name. For my first manuscript, I came up with an Italian mobster named Michael Jack Fatnose Gallo. I thought it was cool, Jack Fatnose. What a nickname for a gangster. Anyway, I think it's silly now and not cool in the slightest, but the point is, the name, along with what I intended on Mr. Gallo doing through the book, it wasn't difficult for me to build a quaint little life around this man. I wanted him to be like the Mitch Rapp in the Vince Flynn novels, with kind of a James Bond wisdom and Steven Seagal level of kicking ass. So after I wrote what I thought would be a good base for the protagonist, I moved on to the antagonist and some of the extra characters. As I mentioned in the beginning, I felt little for Gallo, but thought I was on the right track and had a base to work with. So that's all I'm saying here. Develop a base for your main character and maybe a reason for being for your secondary characters, and go from there. You might not fully connect with your characters in the beginning, but you will as you write. It just happens. You evolve. So next you need to have the roles established prior to starting with the chapter. You don't have to have all of them identified perfectly, and you might not use every character listed, but you should have a protagonist, an antagonist, a guardian, reason, and emotion. So get this done before you move forward in the course. You have to have it. You're going to need it. If you're new to these character traits, I've included a PDF for you to print out and keep with you in all aspects of your story, and your characters are going to jump in your head with new ideas. So be ready for them by having this sheet with you for reference. Also, it's a really good idea to have a pen and paper or a digital recorder or an app on your smartphone to save the ideas when they come in. If you're like me, I get a basic idea and start building it in my head like a movie. If I don't start recording it from the beginning, I'll forget the initial idea, and the entire thing won't make any sense to me. It's a smaller version of building a base from which to build your story. If you can't remember the initial idea or didn't record it somewhere, the rest of it's going to be worthless, and so you got to stay prepared at all times.